scholars of Islam condemn such beliefs. Amongst the scholars that condemn these beliefs is Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Abu Hanifa, and Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, and those who followed their footsteps. He says these acts were copied from Jews and the Christians, who tampered with the true teachings of their prophets and followed their selfish whims, and this is undeniable fact concerning this issue. So he says it is not permissible for any Muslim to emulate a Jew or Christian because they are considered by the scholars as disbelievers, right? Whoever doubts that is also a disbeliever. There are those who ascribe this statement to Ka'ab al-Akhbar, right? That he is of the opinion, but the fact is that he had the opinion before embracing Islam and changed his views after embracing Islam, right? With regards to those who agree with the fact that all days are possessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they can bring neither benefit or cause harm, but insist on following the trends of their forefathers, are committing the grave error and mistake that their actions is a clear innovation which necessitates tawbah. All right, he said this is simply because the disbelievers utter the same statement, and it's why Allah Ta'ala, he says in the Quran in Surah Baqarah, ayah 17, and when they are instructed to follow that which Allah Ta'ala has revealed, they say we will rather follow what we met our forefathers practicing. These are the kind of people that still practice Sabbath. Okay, they still practice Sabbath. They find good in it. They still observe Sunday as a day of resting for church, right? These are also people who also practice holidays, celebrating holidays, right? They prefer one day over the other, or they'll say that it's misfortune or bad luck. These are the kind of things that what the Shaykh was talking about here, about giving preference of one day has more good than the other. He says this is an innovation. This is a great deviation from the right path. Ajiban. It's amazing. He said, how could someone prefer days over others? The days only carry the activities that occur in them, like eating, drinking, and etc., based on a person's inward conviction. Right? You feel good that day, that this was a good day for me. Then alhamdulillah, it was a good day for you. It was your inner conviction. Not know this day is the best day because of this or because of that, right? So now, he says, such belief can only be described as ignorant and foolish and lost in innovation. It is not befitting for anyone who believes in Allah in the last day to run into such ignorant conclusions which cannot be found neither in the Quran or in the books of the people of Ahl Sunnah, or even in the people of the book, the books of the people of the book who had tampered in their scriptures, right? He said, another societal ill that we face today in our lands is innovations of the knowledge of letters. Which part of it is clear disbelief. It happened on one occasion whereby some letters were read by Muslims and a Christian laughed at him, saying, do you know that you are abusing your Lord and your Prophet unknowingly? He said another amongst the societal ills is that we face today in our lands is trying to know the hidden knowledge through casting and doing astrology. This has resulted in greater calamities like sorcery. The scholars said casting with birds is in line with gambling, and it reached the stage whereby some of them they'll gamble using pages of the Quran. A'udhu billah. Other societal ills that we face today in our lands is attaching values to the festivities or the festivals of the disbelievers, like the White Sunday, the Pentecost, Easter, Christmas, and so on and so forth. He said also among the societal ills that is that we face today in our lands is seeking blessings by praying on top of graves or building masajid on top of graves. Such practices belong to the disbelievers, they belong to the Christians. In Islam, we're only allowed to visit the graves, right? Not pray on top of the graves, not build a masjid on top of the grave because of the barakah where the sheikh is at, and we build a masjid over it. Now they'll be left. He's saying the only thing that's permitted is we go visit those people in the grave. Among societal ills which we have faced today in our land is believing in a fraction of the extent of an authentic hadith. These activities include observing prayers during the first Thursday of the night of Rajab, and also in the middle of Sha'ban, the 27th of Rajab, the ending of Ramadan, praying the days of Ashura, praying on the grave, praying for both parents, a special week for Salat, which are all lies ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Because with some of them, there's some conflicting practices. Now, see what happens to us Americans, because we have divided our Islam, our Islamic knowledge, when it comes to the Sunnah, into two fractions, right? Two fractions is you either do this action, and if it seems too conservative, or, not even conservative, if it seems too conservative or you deem it to be extreme, then you must be a Wahhabi, right? If it's moderate and lenient and it seems to be in the middle, regardless of whether the authenticity of what the ulama say about the strength of the narration, etc., then you must be a Sufi, right? This is how we divide our Islam. We don't do no research. You just define it. Basically, most people, we're not saying that with our community. Our community, we rely on strength of what the practice of the people of Ahl Medina was, with our ulama and things of that nature to deem a particular action. But however, you have that, right? And so then what you have is arguments, that are nonstop. And one of our things is when you take in consideration the Amal Ahl Medina, you're also considering what was the practice of the Sahaba, right? We don't discard that. So there's some things people are arguing about, and they'll attribute, they say that must be from some of them Wahhabis, or that must be from the Sufiya. You'll find that practice you follow based off of the strength of the practice of what it is you're committed to. And I hate talking in general like that, because it just seems like like I'm agreeing with everything that goes. No, everything that everybody follows, I don't agree with. I agree with those things that fall in conformity with the Shaykh and Imam Malik, right? That is my madhab. And that is assuming that that's what we follow. As far as what other people follow, alhamdulillah, they're correct in following what they follow, but there's only one truth, as Imam Malik says, right? And that's how we approach things. We don't argue with people unnecessarily. We argue with people to establish the truth. If someone is arguing and saying things against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to shut that down, right? Somebody saying that Allah ta'ala has limbs, you have to shut that down. That Allah ta'ala is in a location, you have to shut that down, right? Allah has children, you have no choice. That's ijma' on that, on top of that, right? But whether or not, Qabd is a Sadr superior to Qabd, despite of us being, believing that's a Sadr superior, we're not going to go and pick a fight with you if you pray Qabd. It's not our business. There's only one truth, as Imam Malik said, right? So anyway, he says, to mention yet another societal ills we face today in our lands is giving preference to nafil acts with hope of obtaining salvation through practicing them, while ignoring the obligatory acts and committing sins, right? Every year, what do? Ramadan. Every Ramadan that's become like a Philadelphia tradition. And I understand we be going through rough times, but bruh, Ramadan is Ramadan. It's an obligation that you have to follow during that time. I'm not discouraging no one from praying Taraweeh, but there be people that ain't prayed in years. In years. And what is the hukum? Can a person do a nafil action if they owe obligations? No. So we'll go, oh man, we need to do all these years of Taraweeh prayer. You ain't prayed in almost 10 years. Ramadan's gonna save me. Yeah, it'll save you by you start making up those obligations you abandoned. Right? We have to begin to worship Allah Ta'ala with knowledge. And this is one of the examples of what the Shaykh was talking about. Meanwhile, people's committed sin. A lot of people don't even give preference to learning fiqh because of their misunderstanding of a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, what's the first obligation, the first obligatory act that Allah will judge on the day of judgment is what? Salat, right? He said, and if my servant is deficient in that, then we'll look to his what? His nafil actions, correct? Well, most people don't even care to learn the hukum, the judgments pertaining to salat. They be like, hey, as long as I make my nafils, I'll be all right. No, you are consciously abandoning your obligations. Consciously abandoning learning in the name of, well, I'll just make sure I do some Nuffle prayers, throw a couple Hail Marys. That's what it's like. Do a couple Hail Marys and I'll be back on my way. So the Sheikh, he says, this is the last of it. He said, among the societal ills we face in our land is slaughtering of oxes, slaughter of cows, sheep, based on baseless beliefs. Another illegal is also illegal training of the youth in the desert by lighting fires. I don't know what that means. He said, which results in them disobeying their parents. I know the objective is sometimes you'll be training young people in a matter, and they'll disobey their parents, right? In a particular matter, in order to engage in that thing. Sometimes that can be equivalent to sports, right? Because parents' rights are very serious, taken very serious in Islam. And one of the things that you always go through, I went through this even as myself as a teen. My mother didn't want me to play football. I forged her signature and everything and got on the football team, right? I done got many spankings. I'll say spankings, just to soften the blow. I had many whoopings. Because why? Because I went to the basketball court to play ball because they was playing ball over here and there was our projects versus the other projects, and I needed to be on that team, and I took an L when I got home and got a beating. Right? This is what I can equate this to. I don't know about like far as setting fires. It could be something metaphorical, or it could actually be a practice. That's their customs. But the objective is that these things cause you to disobey your parents. Playing the Xbox or something like that. Playing, to the point you be like, look, I told you to do A, B, and C, and D. And they're like, look, I gotta finish this, man. I got a Fortnite match going on at 6:00, and you want me to pray, and it's 5:59. Right? So anyway, to proceed on. He said, among the society ills is the mixing of men and women in the markets into the level of nudity in our society. And we've gotten that bad. To the point where you see the bottom of someone's cheeks through their shorts now. Right? And they're walking outside like this. Women are literally wearing bras outside in the name of a shirt. Right? Men are wearing tight pants where their crotch is being exposed. Because, this is impermissible for a man in Islam. So he says, among the societal ills that we practice today is the practices that is attached to circumcision and wedding in the Aqiqah. And also attached to burials. Right? He doesn't go into a full extent. He just kind of like leaves it at that. But he says, it should also be noted that innovation increased based on the level at which the community respects the innovators. You gotta be careful of the people of innovation that you admire. We got a lot of people we admire, and some of them are people that are Ahlul Bid'ah. They're people of innovation. This also leaves you having a hard time of calling an innovator an innovator. We always talk about that all the time, right, Mom? Can't call him an innovator, and you don't really believe he's an innovator then. Well, I don't follow him. Yes, you do. Because as soon as you start having a conversation with something that they uphold and Ahl Sunnah opposes, you can't speak against them, or you get defensive of them. What you say about Shaykh al-Islam? You get defensive, right? You don't see it as we're talking about the action, not the personality, right? So anyway, he says this leads them to gender gathering opposite sexes to dance and play based on seduction, which is illegal based on the teachings of the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Ijma'. And which is something that I do find kind of interesting, especially with Muslim parents, especially, I can't speak for other cultures, but I can speak for our culture, for black people. We'll pay for our children to go to dance rehearsals, participate in talent shows, where they're dancing and gyrating and with other women, and it don't even matter to them. We'll pay for it. But then you say, we're going to hold an Arabic class at the masjid and it's going to be a fee of $20 a month. Knowledge should be free. Right? Knowledge should be free. Or you don't engage your children in it, but you'll put your kids in the local YMCA. This doesn't make sense. And then we wonder why Islam isn't spreading. We undermine Islam by the things that we hold on to. The same way the Shaykh says you shouldn't be holding respect for innovators, we should be holding that kind of respect for kufr in the practices of disbelief. So anyway, He said, no Muslim is allowed to grant permission to his wife, children, or slave to partake in such illegal and cursed activities. Whoever permits them has offended or disobeyed Allah and His Messenger. If a Muslim finds himself in such a society, he's instructed to warn them or also leave and go to another place. Leave that particular place where they're doing that action. Right? You should